Okay, I'll start off showing you rub and buff using silver leaf, which I'm going to use for the priming slide. You just squeeze a little bit of it onto a piece of paper or a palette of some kind. It's always good to have a piece of paper towel handy in case you get too much on your finger. Yes, you apply it with your finger. Some people will apply it with a cloth or something, but I find that it gets a shinier finish if you use your finger. You just get a little bit on your finger like that and start rubbing it on. On large surfaces with no detail on it, you can use more on your finger at once as you start to apply it. If you get too much on your finger in an area with a lot of detail, you could fill in those details, so you only want to use a larger amount like that if you're doing it on a large open surface. Now you can see here where these ribs got a little bit of what I was working on. We don't want the recesses to get any silver on it because high contrast makes guns like this look better from a distance. This is kind of like dry brushing, except you're using your finger. Now on this corner, I'm going to press my finger into this little corner to get more of the rub and buff. Now this area here has more detail on it, so I'm not going to use as much on my finger. A silver rub and buff, the buffing actually happens while you're applying it. I don't know what the difference is between the silver and the other colors, but it goes on much smoother than the other colors do. Now in here there's a groove that I can't really get my finger in all the way between here and here, so what I'm going to do is put some rub and buff on the side of my finger so I can get in that section. Now you notice that I have it now all over my fingers, even on this hand. The immediate way to get it off is to just press it into a paper towel like this to get the excess off. But then soap and water will take it right off, and you'll want to do that before you start doing on anything else, because this will come off on other parts of the project. So always wash your hands between colors or before touching anything else. So now you see this is finished, but before I do any kind of clear coating, I have to let this dry for at least 6 hours. I sometimes let it dry overnight, and then I'll do a light buffing of it to make it shinier than it is now, and then actually let me add a little bit more. There we go. And I still have a little bit of silver left here, so I'm going to go ahead and get started on the cylinder. Now the cylinder is awesome because it has something to hold on to. I'm actually going to get a little bit more silver down here. Now this has some fine details on it, so I'm not going to use as much at once. You can see how that brings out the detail of this recessed section. And it takes just practice for you to get used to how much pressure to use. And how to get angles in with your fingertip. Only the very corners of the back side will actually show, so I'm only going to put a little bit on the very edge. And making decisions as to whether you're going to use rub and buff on certain parts, it usually happens as I'm going. I don't have a specific plan for that. Like on the other one, I didn't get any inside the dart casing. Instead, I only did the very edges. And anytime you get rub and buff somewhere that you don't want it, it's when you keep some acrylic black brush paint available. Like, I don't know if you can see this. I got a little bit on the inside there that doesn't look good, so later on, after this is all dry, I'll take acrylic brush paint with a fine tip brush and fix that. A lot of doing this is touching up. Accidentally get a little bit here, a little bit there that you don't want. You just touch it up. And sometimes you cover it back up and start over with rub and buff. Yeah, there's a little bit that I got in there that I didn't want in there.